What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoy the Scale News Update, hit the like button. Let's jump into this week's topics. First for this week, not something we talk about normally, but if you are into the flight side of the RC hobby, drones, unmanned aircraft in general, the remote ID ruling that the FAA put out about a year ago or a year and a half ago has now been upheld after it went through the appeals court. So what that means is that any manufacturer who's selling a ready to fly or an almost ready to fly even is going to be required to be putting in one of these remote ID modules, which broadcasts the location of the unmanned aircraft, the pilot, and its speed, direction, so forth. Now, it's just a radio signal in the area. It doesn't have to be broadcast over the internet like the original statement from the FAA was, but still, those are going to have to be required to be in all of those models now, anything over 250 grams. Now that has to deal with manufacturers, but hobbyists themselves are also going to be required to put these modules in any unit they're flying, even if they purchased it before the date that this went live, unless they're flying in something that's called like a FRIA, which is a designated place for flying. There's a lot of little stipulations. If you're into that side of the hobby, I suggest reading up on this. Could find some interesting information. Whether or not you plan to comply, not my business, but it's good to know. It's good to have the information so you know what you're doing if you decide to skirt it or you plan to comply. Even though I don't personally participate in that side of the hobby all that often, I do have models that would fall into that. If you're interested in watching about an hour-long interview with people that are very knowledgeable on this subject, I'll try and link to that in the description below, just in case you want a little bit more info. Definitely worth the listen. Next, there's a new model coming from YIKONG called the DF7. This is a 1/7 scale desert truck. Looks pretty similar to the only other 1/7 desert truck out there, but the assembly of it or the construction style is different. It's maybe a little bit more like the Losi versions than the Traxxas, but it's a fairly scaled desert truck. The price seems like it's going to be pretty competitive if you're just comparing size. Now, if you get into electronics quality and construction, durability, things like that, who knows? YIKONG is a brand that has been around for a while, but you mainly see them on like Alibaba and Banggood, things like that. We have seen models that have been rebranded and sold in the US, like Rebel RC's trail truck. That was just a YIKONG like 4102 or something like that. This one, a little bit different than some of the ones we've seen before. It does have a solid rear axle, which looks fairly beefy, not super scale, but at least it looks beefy. There's photos of the differentials, things like that inside, which also look to be, at least sizable. However the quality is, I don't know. The rear drive shaft does look like it is a dog bone design, which is a little bit odd with how long of a travel they have on this. Hopefully they have got the engagement figured out to try and keep that thing from just constantly falling out. But we do see multiple shocks for the scale look. The proportions of it in general, I think, look pretty decent. The tube work maybe looks a little bit small. I have some concerns on how well that will hold up. With these, you never know. Maybe it's worth the price, or maybe you're just gambling at the lower cost and you're going to end up wasting your investment. Who knows? But if you're interested in at least looking at it a little bit more, I'll link to where I found the information available currently. It is on an overseas-based website, so you will have to use auto translate. As you can tell by the name of it, it says, RTR short card. Obviously that was a translation error, but made it into the title anyway. Next, new one from RC 4-Wheel Drive, or specifically JD Customs, who produces these models that are sold by RC 4-Wheel Drive. This one is the Overland Rally Race Truck, and it just looks amazing. It really does. The price on this one, even though it was released here recently, it looks like it has a sale price. Fairly interesting for the fact that it is an RTR. It's, metal construction of that rear box with a cool style. Overall, just a pretty good looking setup. If I was more into this scale of trucks, I think I would be all over this one. I don't know. Maybe one of you is. Either way, another one that's just worth a browse. Take a look at it. And on the other end of the price spectrum from the RC four-wheel drive rally truck, there is these new RC four-wheel drive stamped 1.7-inch SR5 bead locks. Now, the stamped wheels, I think RC four-wheel drive moves a lot of those. They're inexpensive, they're a pain in the butt to mount, but cheap. So if you're going that 1.7 route, you're already super limited on wheel selection. This is most likely going to be the cheapest you can get as far as a bead lock goes. And with a new twist, they come with a center cap, a scale style center cap on these. Thanks again to Crawler Innovations for sponsoring this month of the Scale News Update. This week, we're going to highlight the Little Nova's dual stage wide comp cut foams with the heavyweight inner closed cell foam. Now, Crawler Innovations, if you didn't know, they do offer multiple widths of some of their popular foam options. This one, the wide, specifically made to work best on wide wheels, wider tires, things like that. But the wider setup helps fill in that sidewall area, giving you more support. The heavyweight foam, the foam is not necessarily heavier. It's just a little bit more dense. So if you've got a wide set of bead locks and, a bunch of brass on your TRX4, these would be a fantastic choice. The heavyweight foam will help keep the tire stood up more, giving you a little bit better clearance, much better sidewall support to improve your side hilling, and with keeping its shape will also improve your steering response. If you got a heavy truck but not so wide wheels, check out the non-wide version. And if you're shopping on Crawler Innovations for any of their foam options, whether it be 1.0s, 2.2s, wide, narrow, whatever it may be, even mountain bike tires, check out their website and use the code Harley10. It'll save yourself 10% for the rest of the month, which you don't have a lot left of. So hurry up, go pick yourself up some stuff at Crawler Innovations. Thanks again to Crawler Innovations for sponsoring this month of the Scale News Update. For those of you that have looked at using Send, Cut, Send in the past, they've also added a couple of new material options for prototyping specifically, made to cut costs and get you parts quickly. They've added chipboard and some plywood. So if you're trying to just get something fit, you're not 100% sure, but you're ready to send it off to have a part cut out, then these make some great options. Available in a number of thicknesses. You can get some very thin chipboard. You can get some 1/2-inch thick plywood even. So check that out. Again, Send, Cut, Send. Upload your file. Tons of different formats are supported, and order costs can start at $29. And you can get a surprising amount of stuff done for $29 and free shipping super fast. Highly recommend. I use them myself, and I have a code for there to save yourself 15% off. It's not an affiliate link. It just saves you money. Click it. Go save yourself some money. Have something cut out. Tons of options. Check them out, sendcutsend.com. This week, Proline made the official announcement for the Comp Wagon. This is their new cab-only version of the Power Wagon. This does have a number of changes compared to the previous Power Wagon. It's got suicide doors where they just basically moved the handle and the hinge one side to the other. They also changed up the style on the grille just a little bit, added some louvers on the side, changed the size of the rear window. Pretty basic stuff, but anything that was made for the Power Wagon should pretty much fit on the Comp Wagon. They made the front fenders much smaller. They're just a small lip that goes around it, so you don't have to cut off those enormous fenders that you found on the original Power Wagon. So if you're looking for that cab only option, this one is a whole lot cheaper than the previous option. Also, I noticed in the photos, there's a brand new bumper on the front of the truck. It's a plastic molded bumper, pretty simple looking, mounts on the side. It looks like it's on an SCX-10-2 chassis underneath with all plastic links. Not sure if this is going to be a new bumper coming from Proline or we're going to see something on the SCX-2 coming. Keep an eye out. Never know. Sometimes they put a little Easter egg in those photos. You just got to look close. For you Infraction owners, a couple of those new bodies rolled into town finally. First one is the Proline Nissan GTR. That one available everywhere. Hit stores and distributors here recently. So if you were holding off, didn't want to pre-order, pick it up. They're in stock now. Or that Biddy Designs Destroyer body, the Unicorn style body, also rolled into town about the same time. So that one's available on A-Main right now. Last week, Redcat announced a new model of their lowrider line, the 59. This is a Jevries collector edition. If that's your thing, too bad, because if you didn't get one already, it seems that they sold out. Unless you see these making their way to dealers when they'll sell them, they are labeled as sold out on the Redcat website. I imagine that that's just the collector's edition. I can't imagine that you won't be able to buy one of these 59s in some other type of edition here soon. They went through all the trouble of making that body, which looks good if you're into that 59 Impala style. They did a great job. Who would have guessed that this little segment would have taken off like it has? The 59 is coming on the longer 287 millimeter wheelbase version. So it's got the full hopping ability with the super fast front servo to get it to hop up in the air and all the other stuff to make it do fun lowrider things. Going from one crazy product launch to another, 110th Rod Shop just released these powered side steps for the CEN F450. Powered side steps, you know, like the ones on full-size trucks when you open the door and the little side step comes down. They released these for your RC truck. Just taking those F450s to a little bit of another level. Just taking those F450s and continuing to make them even crazier. Again, another market that I just never would have guessed would have taken off like it has. But I thought this one was too funny not to show. Cross just announced machined axle sets for the Emo line. These are going to be complete axle sets, it appears. Both front and rear are going to be available separately, and it looks like it's got, again, all the gears, axle shafts, everything inside, including the locking and unlocking differential setup that's kind of cable operated. These part numbers weren't listed on their website yet, so I couldn't cross-reference what the price was going to be on these. And at this time, it looks like they're only available in a black finish. This Wednesday, live stream takeover. Come join Matt and I for our live show, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Can never guess what we're going to end up talking about on that show, except flying cars. That's always a guarantee. But Friday Night Live this week should be a special one. So make sure and come hang out for that. Looking forward to this week for sure. Gonna be a good one. So don't forget, Friday night, again, same time as Livestream Takeover, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. But that's gonna do it for this week's news topics. For this week's question segment, last week we talked about what makes you feel like a kid with your hobby. Generally RC, and a lot of you had the same types of thoughts. Going fast, jumping high, hitting a mud puddle, whatever. All of it, everything that makes us giggle or chuckle when you go out and get to enjoy your RC. It's a great break for a lot of us. But kind of the flip side of the question, what makes it hard for you to enjoy your hobby? Is it just a lack of free time? Is it how expensive things can be? Is it just finding the joy in something that you used to love so much? What is it? What is your struggle with the hobby? Whether it be RC or whatever else you enjoy. Let me know. Put it in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this week's Scale News Update. As always, I appreciate you guys watching the show every Tuesday. Hit the like button if you enjoy them. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the Scale News Update as soon as it gets published every week. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.